Guys, welcome back. Today we are talking about YouTube and mostly social media, including YouTube actually. And if you can see my shirt here, it says YouTube is evil. And people are gonna be like, but Sean, YouTube's got all this great stuff on it, all these wonderful things to say and share. And yes, YouTube does have a lot of great content on it. The content is great. It also has a lot of despicable content. It has people getting gunned down. It has zits exploding. I mean, it has a lot of really gross, abhorrent things on it, which some people find really interesting and others find really disdainful. And so the reason that I call social media and YouTube in particular evil is that what they're trying to do, actually I should speak of it from a personal account so people can understand better why I would think it's evil. In 2016, my wife became the NATO cyber warfare attorney. One of them. To be more specific, she actually worked at United States Army European Command, which is part of NATO. NATO is headquartered in Belgium, and we were actually in Stuttgart. And she did, just like it sounds. She worked at the cyber part. And when you work at the cyber part, you learn a lot of stuff about social media. Because like I always say, the most dangerous thing in the universe, not the planet, not the country, the universe, the most dangerous thing in the universe is information. And what social media has done, particularly YouTube, is they control it. And they don't always have benevolent interests. Their interests are monetarily driven, and they're also driven by stakeholders, such as bureaucrats, technocrats, legislative body members like the United States Senate, the US House of Representatives. Those are both parts of Congress. See, when people talk about Congress, everybody thinks of the House of Representatives or the Senate. Most people don't realize that when we're talking about Congress, that encompasses the House of Representatives and the Senate. And that's what we commonly refer to as Congress and their legislative body. And those members are stakeholders in YouTube and Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, I mean, it just goes on, Pinterest, Instagram, all of these stakeholders have a vested interest in these platforms. And the reason they have a vested interest in it is because they want to control the information. And they want to control it not because they're, for the most part, they're not pious. For the most part, they're self-serving. If you noticed, I'm not monetized. I don't have any plans to monetize. We make so much more money than, my wife's a retired, basically a federal judge and an attorney. And we make so much money that it's not even funny. We make so much more money than a congressman or a bureaucrat or anything like that. And so I'm not doing this for the money. I do it because I love everybody. That sounds hokey as shit. So why is YouTube evil? YouTube is evil because it propagates certain information that is completely misnomer, malfeasance, misfeasance, while downgrading or stifling or suppressing information that would serve us. It would serve us to know about some of these things. Now, one thing that I'm really stringent about is FARA. which stands for the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And what FARA is, it makes it to where people have to register countries, stations, news channels. They, in the United States, to broadcast on platforms like YouTube, they have to register with YouTube that they're a foreign agent. They have to register with the US government that they're a foreign agent. And the problem with YouTube on that aspect is they are overlooking places like First Post. First Post is propagating Russian propaganda right now. And people are like, well, those are the only kind of outlets I can get real information from. The RT was one of my targets back in the day, and it took me years to take them down. Tons of work, tons of phone calls, tons of campaigning to get people to listen. The RT was really damaging to everything, to our way of life and our missions as Americans. And what RT and First Post and what these outlets are doing is they're doing something that I like to call planting seeds of truth to grow a garden of lies. And what that means, that's an analogy. And what it means is they take these things that are very serious and they're true, they're 100% true. And those are the seeds. So they've got these true things and they're really sensationalized. I mean, they're so sensational. It blows your mind how crazy the news is. And it's true, it's for real. So they're telling facts. So that's the seed. So they plant all these seeds. And then they come back later with a campaign that they need to use disinformation. And that's their garden of lies. So they've taken these facts that are for real about whether it's war, covert warfare, you name it. They take these simple, sensationalized facts and they take them and use them as their base. And then when they need to, they pull the old ace out of the sleeve of the lies and they will hose you with the lies. Whatever the lies are, we could make up a million of them. Just think of the craziest thing you could think of that Russia would say, and that's what they're doing. And so FARA protects us from being garden hosed by that. And what's happening is currently Google under, I don't remember his name, that Indian guy. Sounds terrible. The guy from India, I should say. Indian might sound like I'm a racist. For a xenophobe's way better than a racist. So the guy that runs Google and all their cronies over there that are from India, they are stifling the ability of the Justice Department to act on FARA with outlets like First Post. So they've circumvented the whole RT thing, which we worked so hard to get them shut down. And they're propping up these places like First Post and India Today, all those outlets in India that we think of. And that's part of the evil. That's part of the evil. So they're taking facts and they're mixing them in there with the mistruth, misinformation, and it's all just getting hosed on us right now. And that's evil. And then the other things that they're doing is they're taking groups just think of any activist group. Put the activist group name down below that you want to talk about. There's tons of them. Whether they're white or black or brown or whatever the case, they're taking all of these groups and they're cherry picking out groups that are not aligned with progressive ideology, and they're leaving in groups that are insane. And the simplest proof of this is if you look at a group of individuals who is rioting. It's 100% riotous activity that they're partaking in. And you look at that and you go, and YouTube and all the channels and everything are saying that these are protesters or activists or things like that. They're not. They're rioters. And in a lot of cases, they're even terrorists. And then it's taking other groups that are like oath keepers and stuff like that. And then they're calling them homegrown terrorists and rioters. And it's clear from the video, the sheriff's department and the police show up and everything, and they bag and tag every single one of those guys. And they've done nothing wrong except for show up in a peaceful assembly, and they're labeled as, like I said, homegrown terrorists or activists or rioters. And really, they have nothing of the sort in their heart. They just don't even have that in their heart. And so that's why we have YouTube is evil. They're propagating misinformation, and the real cost is being paid by you and I in our brains, in our health, because it affects our health. When humans see something that we know is not true and we're still digesting that information, what happens is it causes a thing called cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance can be very destructive to people. You, me, everybody. And cognitive dissonance is when you're living a lie, that's cognitive dissonance. So you know one thing for sure. You know it in your heart, your bones, and everything. You know the sky's blue. And YouTube is telling you that the sky is not blue. And it's not the content creators that are deciding whether the sky is blue or not, because there's content creators that say the sky is purple. There's content creators that say there is no sky. There's content creators that say the sky is blue. Well, ultimately, it's YouTube who decides what content makes it to our eyeballs. And my dad's like, well, I thought it was kind of it was socially regulated. And what he means by that, like peer regulated. And he means like, when you can click the report thing and you say spam, abusive, or all of that, those things are cherry picked as well by YouTube content moderators. People in Arizona sitting in these little industrial malls with all these cubicles in them with headsets on and a little computer. A lot of them are at home now because of the 2020 thing. They knew that there was going to be a real big backlash and revolt. And so 2020, the virus fear campaign, was the perfect opportunity for these individuals, the technocrats, to come in and move these people out of big buildings so they can't be targeted. And, that's fair. That's reasonable. Nobody wants them to get hurt. And I have always supported violence. I have always thought in the way that we look at Germany during World War II. We didn't ask the Germans politely to get the heck out of France, to get the heck out of Belgium. We, as Americans, went in there with extreme prejudice and violence, killed them and kicked them out of those countries, and then sent them back to their own country to clean up their own mess, and prosecuted all the war crimes and made them pay reparations, all at the end of a sword, basically a gun. If they weren't going to do it, they were going to be killed. And we did the same thing to the Japanese in World War II. We didn't ask the Japanese, hey guys, can you stop doing that? No, we sent in our Marines, we kicked the ever-loving crap out of them, blew them up at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and told them, look, if you keep this up, it's gonna get worse. So that's where I'm saying violence really works. Now the problem is that the monopoly on violence is owned by the government, the military, and the police. And so the idea of the framers of the Constitution was to give us an apparatus in the Second Amendment to be able to defend ourselves against extreme tyranny, which that's what we live in right now. It seems like a free state and everything's all roses and sunshine. You can smoke weed, drink beer, and cruise with your friends. The fact is though, you are 100% accountable and under surveillance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is an electronic prison. And if you step out of line, or you have a bad day, or you put a video on Facebook or whatever, that bad day is going to follow you around for the rest of your life as far as the US government goes. And that's evil too. And YouTube is the evil behind that. It's not just the government. YouTube is facilitating that. Facebook is facilitating that. Twitter is facilitating that. I love Elon Musk in his own right. I do have some reservations about him because he's from South Africa and he wants to be American, and I'm really proud of him for that. At the same time, wanting to be a full-fledged American and being a full-fledged American like me, I grew up in Lybrook, New Mexico at a cryogenic gas stratification plant where my dad did automation. I had a go-kart when I was a kid that I bought with some money I made doing lawns from one of my buddies in middle school or grade school. That's red-blooded American stuff we're talking about. They weren't riding around on go-karts having fun and shaking up a beer before we give them to our dad's friend in Africa. And they're not doing that kind of stuff. They're fighting for their lives over race wars and stuff. So I do have some reservations about my buddy Elon. He's everybody's buddy, right? He really is. He tries real hard to be everybody's friend, and I think he's doing a really good job at that. Not just on the surface, I think in his heart, he really wants the best for people. What are his hidden motives? One could argue. But the main crux of this argument is that YouTube is evil. Now, let's go all the way back to the beginning where I was telling you about my wife working at European Command in cyber. What we learned is there are these military systems military information systems. MISO is for short. And what they are, MISO actually stands for Military Information Systems Operations. And these are things that the military uses on the back end to keep track of, you name it, their information systems and their operations. And what we learned was my wife got off of Facebook right away. She was like, one day she came home and she's like, I'm not getting on Facebook ever again. And she went in and she completely deleted her account. Just completely. She completely deleted all of her online presence like that. And she wanted to, I'm sure on some level she wanted to share with me some of the information that she had that made her feel that way. And I told her, babe, she has a top secret compartmentalized clearance. And I told her, I love you so much. All my friends do. All my friends are spies and spooks, and they all have top secret clearances. I'm the only one that doesn't because I'm an idiot. And so I tell them, my friends, my family that have top secret clearances that are having a bad day, I love you so much, I don't want you to share that information with me. And the other thing, the other side of that is, I'm really good at what are called intelligence mosaics. So I take open source information from here, and I can build something that is actually top secret. So individually, these items are not top secret. However, when we take all of them and put them into an intelligence mosaic, they now become something top secret. And I don't do that intentionally. I'm just such an inquisitive person that it just happens naturally to me. And it happens over and over and over again. I just go digging and finding information and putting all the pieces together until I have a really good information mosaic. on all sorts of things. And I thank God nobody's killed me yet. I'm really thankful the Clintons haven't Clintoned me, because if I ever show up on a park bench with 2 holes in the back of my head, that I didn't do that myself. That was somebody that did that to me. So let's stay on topic here. I like tangents. They're fun when you're telling stories, right? YouTube is evil. It's eroding our society. It's eroding our way of life. And it's making life almost untenable for so many people. I find myself checking my email for YouTube updates, from people commenting on my posts. And for some reason, I only get like 2 a day. And if I look, YouTube, if I look at my thing, like people are always commenting, and I just don't get those for some reason. And that's the other part of the evil. And people are like, go check your settings. And it's like, well, I'm checking my settings. So YouTube is trying to stifle that somehow. One thing that my wife and I got put on YouTube, there's a label on your iPhone. It's a big blue banner. We got that put on in 2017 with the help of the State Department and the Department of Defense under the FARA Act. We've basically forced YouTube. There was going to be a big backlash if they didn't do it. We forced YouTube to put that banner on there that says, this information is paid for in whole or part by such and such government. And so we did that, and I'm still here fighting that fight. And I want to ask you guys to call your senators, call your congressmen, and tell them you're concerned about YouTube's part in aiding foreign agents. Call them, help me help you guys. And I know it sounds crazy, and I don't mind sounding crazy. One of my friends told me something that I told them 20 years ago that makes me sound like a nut job. And I was like, you know what? I don't ever talk trash about him to, anybody, except for maybe my wife. I confide in her about some of the stuff. And when you have a friend, it takes a friend to be a friend. You gotta be a friend to have a friend. I'm like George Bush, huh? You gotta be a friend to have a friend. And so I just disregard that, when he's mean about me being crazy. If I am crazy, I would still rather be crazy than obtuse, or the newest hate word that everybody's using right now is ignorant. When people want to be hateful to you, they're going to call you ignorant, and that's going around a lot right now. And so yeah, YouTube is evil. We're never going to shut them down, and it's not socially moderated. There's no moderation coming from us with our little tab clicks and reporting spam and all of that, because that is ultimately not being controlled by you and me. It's being controlled by people sitting in cubicles in Phoenix and Tucson and closer to Silicon Valley, and at their homes and stuff like that, depending on what level of a content moderator they are. And like I said, it's not just YouTube. I can't obviously have a shirt that says YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok are evil. It would be this big and nobody'd ever see it. So let's hit the big boy hard, and we can do something about this. I am going to be running for United States Senate here as soon as whenever it's available in my area for somebody that's because for whatever reasons, I've been labeled a Republican my whole life. My family was all Republicans. My dad says I'm a Southern Democrat. I've been called a rhino. I've been called a dino. And what I'm doing is I'm going to run as a Republican, whatever the closest year is that is available for me for U.S. Senate. And I am going to be on the Senate Select Committee for Foreign Intelligence, and I'm also going to be really critical of the Justice Department about them letting institutions slip under the radar. Because if you dig just a little bit, the information that they're foreign agents, it's there. And it's just, there's no political willpower to really do something about it. Pound them hard. And that's what we want to do, and that's what I'm going to do. Leave your questions and comments down below.